Premium quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. Sound good? If so, check out the sponsor of today's video, jerseyfifa.com. You can see that I've sent you some shirts and they really are top quality, so make sure to click the link in the description to go find a shirt for yourself or perhaps as a gift for someone else. And you can now use code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. I really do recommend their product, so go take a look. Now let's get into the analysis. So recently I've spoken a lot about how Manchester United have really been struggling for large periods of the season, and one player that has really struggled as a result of this is Marcus Rashford, who's been having a really poor season. So why is Rashford in such poor form? Well, from a mental point of view, he did come into the season off the back of a disappointing summer at the Euros, where he really struggled for game time and of course missed the penalty in the final. After the Euros, Rashford finally took some time off to have surgery on a few different injuries, and again this affected his build up for the season because he was obviously given no pre-season to really get up to speed. And obviously even before that, Rashford spent the previous 2 seasons playing through a ridiculous amount of injuries to his ankle, shoulders and back, and he really put the club before himself, playing through these injuries to help the side. Despite these injuries, Rashford kept producing brilliant numbers in the Premier League, and we can see that in these stats here, with Rashford regularly finishing as one of United's top goal scorers and assisters over the past couple of seasons. However, despite everything he has done for the club and the potential reasons or excuses we can put his poor form down to, there is no hiding the fact that Rashford has been in awful form for most of the season, and he's lost his place in the team, and we're actually at the point where there's even talks that he'll be leaving the club in the summer. Now personally, I do think that is unlikely, however it is still definitely a possibility that United look to move him on this year. One of the big factors in Rashford's future will of course be Erik ten Hag and his personal opinions on Rashford as a player. Now his talent is there for all to see, but will ten Hag feel that he can get Rashford into his system? Well, I have actually done a video looking at Ten Hag's tactics this season, so you can check that video out on the channel to see how I think Ten Hag would set up if he was to try and replicate his tactics that he's used with Ajax this year. Now, if Ten Hag was to use similar tactics to the one that he's used at Ajax so far this season, then I'm not too sure that there is a place in the side for Rashford, as Ten Hag has looked to use quite creative players in these wider areas. However, Ten Hag is a very tactically versatile manager, and again I've got a video on his tactics from 2018, and if you watch the video you'll see that Ten Hag built a completely different Ajax side that used a different setup. And if Ten Hag was to use similar tactics to what he used in 2018, then suddenly it looks like there is potential for Rashford to come into the side, to perform in a sort of Neres-esque role which he saw during Ajax's brilliant campaign. If this was the case, then Rashford would be able to come inside into much more central areas, which would then allow Luke Shaw to really push forward down the left hand side, overlapping Rashford to provide the width for the attack. As I said, this sort of tactical approach would suit Rashford much more than the tactics that we've seen this season, allowing him to cut inside onto his stronger right foot to really play to his strengths of being a goal scoring inside forward. As well as scoring more goals, this support from the fullback down the left hand side would also draw some attention away from Rashford, allowing him to get at his man in a 1 versus 1 as opposed to the usual 3 defenders that he finds himself up against. In this sense, Rashford has always been a brilliant dribbler and a really exciting player to watch, and it would be great to see him getting back to this level of performance again, although he has always needed work on his decision making. However, in Erik ten Hag, Rashford may finally have the opportunity to work under a really talented manager, who is willing to really work with Rashford and develop him as a player, something that Ten Hag has a track record for. If Ten Hag is willing to really put the time and work in to get Rashford performing at the right level again, then I don't see any reason why we can't see Rashford starting to find the back of the net on a more regular basis like he has done in the past. And it's surprising just how much one goal can give a player so much confidence, and I think it's this extra bit of confidence that Rashford needs to get back to his sparkling best, and we all know how much of a threat he can be, especially with his pace. As well as having this ridiculous pace, Rashford is actually quite a good passer as well, and this is actually a side of his game that can be quite underrated. But even with his assist tally earlier, we clearly saw that he can find his teammates with these passes. I guess ultimately the big thing for Rashford will be what version of Erik ten Hag we see. Will he use a goal scoring winger like he did in 2018, or will he be looking for a slightly more creative player, and if so, can Rashford adapt? Well, let's take Ajax's wingers this season for example, and in Tadic and Antony you have 2 very technically proficient players, and one thing we've seen them doing a lot this season is playing through balls for the inverted fullbacks to run onto. To be fair, this is actually something that Rashford is pretty good at, and if you quickly cast your mind back to the start of last season, then you may remember Rashford regularly cutting inside onto his right foot before then threading the ball through for Shaw to run onto. And actually, over the past couple of seasons, Rashford and Shaw have managed to develop an excellent understanding, and at times they really were United's main source of ball progression with their link up down the left hand side of the pitch. There's also the possibility that Rashford could be tried out on the right hand side of the attack instead, and again we could see him using his passing ability to play the ball down the line for someone like Bruno Fernandes to run onto, making the burst in behind the defence. Playing in this sort of role on the right hand side would also potentially allow Rashford to show off his ball carrying ability, and as I was saying earlier, he has excellent dribbling capabilities to beat his man, which could be of huge value. If Rashford is able to quickly get a bit of confidence back with a few good performances, then I do genuinely think that he could quickly go back to being his old self, and when in that sort of form, we all know that he has a bit of magic in him. The quality is there for all to see. If you ask any of the England players, then they regularly say that Rashford is one of the most difficult players to deal with in training. So the raw quality as a footballer has to be there, we just need to see it. But now it's time to get back to some potential negatives, and one of the issues for Rashford is that he does seem a much better player when he is playing on the left hand side rather than the right. But why is this a problem for him? Well, actually the problem isn't Rashford, it's actually Jadon Sancho, because he is another player that looks much better when he is playing on the left hand side, and he has obviously had a much better season than Rashford this year. This is yet another thing that Ten Hag is going to have to figure out quite early on when he joins the club, because he can't play the two of them on the same side, so unfortunately one of them will be moved away from their favourite position on that left hand side. However, Ten Hag is an extremely intelligent manager, and I've said already he is extremely tactically flexible, and if anyone can find a solution to the problems on the wing for United, then I do think he is the man for the job. However, if Ten Hag can't find a solution to this current winger problem, then I wouldn't be surprised to see United dipping into the transfer market this summer to bring a new winger into the club who can play on the right wing for his side. I have actually done a video on that already just a couple of weeks ago, so make sure to go check that out at the end of this video and let me know in the comment section who you want United to sign for that position on the right hand side of the attack. With that in mind, it is now up to Rashford as a player to figure out whether or not he really wants to fight for his position and the Manchester United shirt, and it's just whether or not he has the mentality to take on this challenge head first. I think this pre-season it could really be make or break for Marcus Rashford as a Manchester United player, and this will be his chance to really prove to Erik ten Hag that he is ready to fight for his spot in the team to prove himself as a player. As I've been saying throughout the video, I do think that a bit of confidence and maybe even just some love from the manager would go a long way towards helping Rashford turn his career around, and I think Ten Hag could help with this. But more than anyone, it is down to Rashford. We've seen in the past he's an incredibly hard-working individual to put the team before his own body, and it's time to see that level of hard work again if he wants to get back on track. Because we all know how weird football is. A player can be brilliant then suddenly turn poor, or a player can be in horrible form but then suddenly they improve with a flick of a switch, where it can come from just one goal to boost confidence. And who knows, if this can happen for Rashford, then maybe, just maybe, he can turn his form and his career back around, to once again become one of the most exciting and valuable young players in all of European football. Or things could go the other way, the poor form could continue and Rashford could continue to plateau, or maybe even get worse like we've seen this season. I truly do believe that the next 12 months are make or break time in his career, especially considering the fact that it is a World Cup year as well, and I'm sure that as a young Englishman Rashford will be absolutely desperate to represent his country at a major tournament once again. It's the pinnacle of every player's career. But as things stand, it simply isn't going to happen, and Rashford really has a big task on his hands to prove himself to Gareth Southgate and earn his place back in the squad, ahead of some really talented young players. Right now it feels as though everything is finally in the balance, and I really could see it going either way over the next 12 months or so, but personally I really hope that he takes a step forward and improves as a player to excel his career. But for this to happen, I do think that the Manchester United fans need to show a little bit of patience. I understand that they want better performances, but booing or harassing Rashford or any player is not the way to get them playing better. On top of this, I think that Ten Hag needs to have some patience as well to really understand Rashford as a player and as a person. And if both of these things happen, then it's then truly up to Rashford to make the change that he needs. And as I've been saying throughout the video, it is make or break time, and I want to hear your thoughts. What way do you think it will go for Rashford, and why do you think he has been struggling so much this season? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.